Hello, good day, welcome. I am by name Samuel Babatunde, and today we'll be looking at basic technology. Basic technology. And the topic we're going to be considering today is the properties of materials. That is, the properties of materials we use in the workshop and in the engineering laboratory. Like we discussed in our previous classes, we look at the uses of some of these materials, where we discuss about the wood and the metals. We look at the uses of wood and metals, how they are used in various workshops in different ways. We talk about the wood. We say wood is used in transportation, in our homes, as in furniture and various things, even as fuel. And then the metals also. We talk about metals like the iron, the ferrous metal, and then those that are not ferrous metal, that is, they do not contain iron. And we say these metals are used in production of automobiles, industrial machines, and so on, even our appliances. But today we're going to be looking at the properties of this material, the properties of this material. And the materials we're going to be considering today is still on the wood and the metal. So we're going to be looking at the properties of wood and metal. Like I said, I am by name Samuel Babatunde, and we'll be considering properties of materials, which are the wood and the metals. Now, like I said in the previous class, that the common materials used in workshop and engineering works include the woods, the metals, the ceramics, and the glass. And these materials, they varies in what's different in properties. That is, these materials has their own properties specific to them, like the wood. The wood has its own properties. The metals has their own properties. The ceramics has their own properties, and the glass has its own properties. And like you know, you cannot do without these materials because these materials are very essential in our workshop and our engineering works. So we have to discuss about these materials because we use them daily. Like our decks, when we talk about the uses of wood, we say our decks in the workshop is made from wood. Our furnitures at home are made from wood. Definitely you can't do without talking about wood. Even the metals, our cars that we use today is made from metal. So we have to discuss them. And we've discussed about their uses, but today we are going to be looking at the properties of this material. So we are going to be considering the properties of this material. And like I said, we're narrowing it down to woods and metals. Now let's look at wood. Wood is the oldest engineering materials. It consists of 70% cellulose, 20% of lignin, and 10% of other substances like resins, gums, and waxes. So wood is the oldest engineering material. Even before the discovery of metals, wood has been in existence. And this is because wood is gotten from trees. And like you know, trees, plants, and man has been together right from time. So wood is the oldest engineering material because it has been there. Like we know that wood, the timber we use, is gotten from these trees. And trees, even the origin of trees cannot even be traced because what trees are like the oldest. They are very, very old. So wood is the oldest engineering material. And it is made up of all these 70% cellulose, the 20% lignin, and 10% of other substances like your resins, your gums, and waxes. All these are contained in the wood. Now, this wood can be classified into two. We can classify wood basically into two. We have the hardwood and the softwood. Now, this classification is actually based on the type of trees this wood are gotten from. Remember, I told you that woods, as an engineering material or materials used in the workshop, are gotten from trees, and that's why we say wood is the oldest engineering material. So, classification of this wood will actually depend on the trees from which they are gotten, and we can classify them into two, which is the hardwood and the softwood. So now we'll be looking at the hardwood. Like I said, I see their classification is based on the trees in which they're gotten. So however, hardwood is obtained from plants with the following characteristics. Now for you to talk about the characteristics of hardwood, because the main aim of today's lesson is to talk about the properties of these materials. Now for you to talk about the characteristics of hardwood, you have to talk about the characteristics of the plants or the trees from which they are gotten. So their characteristics is actually related to the characteristics of the plants or the trees from which they are gotten. Now, hardwood is obtained from plants with the following characteristics. That is, when you see a plant with these following characteristics, you definitely know that any wood gotten from this plant will definitely be a hardwood. That's just the simple meaning of this. Now, The trees or the plant where you can get hardwood has these following characteristics. Number one here says the leaves are broad and the seed are enclosed in a seed case. If you go to go to the tropical regions like the forest where you find trees. Now, when you see a tree with broad leaves, you should know that what this tree, the wood from this tree, will definitely be a hardwood. And not just that alone, the seeds of this tree are usually enclosed in a case. The seeds are not naked. Take for instance, now let me get an instance like your mango that you have now. You see your mango or your mahogany tree. If you look at the seed, you see that the seed is actually enclosed in a case. Let's use mango as an example, say, because mango is very common. We see mango every day. So if you look at the seed of this mango, you notice that this seed is usually enclosed in cases. So these are this is one of the characteristics of trees where hardwood can be gotten. They have broad leaves and their seeds are enclosed in a seed case. That is, the seed is not naked. Now, secondly, the trees shed its leaf every season. They shed their leaves every season. So the trees where you get hardwood from, they have this character of shedding their leaves every season. That is, they shed down the old leaves to get new leaves. And because of that, we refer to them as what deciduous trees. They are referred to as deciduous trees because they shed their leaves every season. So once you notice a tree that shed its leaf every season, definitely you know that this tree is a hardwood. The wood that can be gotten from this tree is a hardwood. Now, these trees are usually found in the tropical region, like I told you. You find them in the tropical region. And these trees, example of these trees include the mahogany, the afara, the obeche, the opepe, the oak, the iroko tree. I know iroko is very common. The iroko tree is very, very common. And the belsin. So I would like you to just to master these trees because you might see them in your exam, like in the multiple choice question. They might ask you to pick an option which is or which is not a hardwood. So you have to master yourself with some of these examples. Like I said, hardwood are obtained from plants that has broad leaves and seeds are enclosed in a case. That is, the seeds are not naked, and that the trees usually shed their leaves in a season. In every season they shed their leaf. In every season they shed their leaf, and we refer to them as deciduous trees. And that the trees are mostly found in the tropical region. And the examples include the mahogany, the afara, the obeche, the opepe, the oak, iroko, and belsin. So that is that for hardwood. Now we'll be moving to the softwood. Softwood. Remember I told you that the characteristics of this wood actually depends on the characteristics of the plants from which they are gotten. Now softwood is obtained from plants with the following characteristics. The leaves are thin, sharp, needle-like or scaly in structure. If you remember, for the hardwood, we say that the leaves are broad. The leaves for hardwood are broad. But now, in the case of softwood, the leaves are thin. The leaves are thin. They are not broad. Sharp and needle-like. The leaves are like needle. They are needle-like or scaly in structure. Then the seeds are conical and naked, not closed in a case. If you remember for the hardwood, I told you that hardwood seed is enclosed in a seed case. It is not naked. But in terms of softwood now, their seeds are naked. The seeds are naked. They are not enclosed. The seeds are not closed in cases. The seeds are naked. And the trees are found mostly in temperate or cold regions. Remember, I told you hardwood are found in tropical regions. But in the case of softwood, you mostly find softwood in cold regions, in very temperate regions that are very, very cold, like Europe, like in Europe, that is cold. So this is where you find most of this softwood. An example of this softwood include the cypress, the cedar, the pines, and the spruce. So I'd like you to also master these examples because you might come across them in your multiple choice question. So please master them. So I'll go over the characteristics again. I say the leaves are thin, they are sharp, needle-like or scaly in structure. The seeds are conical and naked. They are not enclosed in cases, unlike the hardwood that has their seed in cases. And I say the trees are found in temperate or cold regions, unlike the hardwood that is found in tropical regions. And this includes the cypress, the cedar, the pines, and the spruce. So all these are the examples of softwood. All these are the examples of softwood. So We've looked at the classification of wood. Remember, I told you that wood classification is based on the type of plants in which they've gotten, and we say divided into hardwood and softwood. We looked at the hardwood and we've looked at the softwood. Now, we're going to be moving to the next material, which is the metals. The next material, which is the metals. Now, metals are elements. Metals are elements. That is, what we mean by element is that they are substances which cannot be splitted further into any simpler form by any known words chemical means. So like they are in their simplest form already. Metals are already in their simplest form. The substances are in their simplest form. So they cannot be splitted into any simpler form by any known chemical process. As I will say, metals are elements and they are distinct from other engineering materials. Why? Because they have the ability to conduct electricity. And because of this, we say they are conductors. If you notice your wires that you use today, most of the wires, the cables they use in connecting our lights, that's electricity, they are made from metals. This is because metal has these distinct properties which other materials do not have. And what is this property? This property is that what they conduct electricity. Metal has the ability to conduct electricity, and because of this, we say they are what? They are conductors. So conductors simply refers to as materials that has the ability to conduct electricity. An example of these materials is metal. This particular property is peculiar to metals alone. It's peculiar to metals alone. They have the ability to conduct electricity, and they are referred to as conductors. Now, the physical properties of metals include the following. The physical properties of metals include the following. Number one is the density of metal. Now, remember I told you that metals are elements, and we have several metals. Examples include your aluminum, you have your iron, you have the cobalt, you have nickel, you have the tin. So all these are what they are metals, and each of these metals, because they are elements, they have their own what density. That is, the density of iron is different from the density of aluminum. The density of aluminum is different from the density of cobalt. So all these metals has their own what specific density. They have their own specific density. So density is one of the physical properties of metal. Another property is sonorosity. Sonorosity simply means what? Production of sound. So metal has the ability to produce sound. Now, when you pick up a metal, it's tin or any metal, and you hit it, what you notice that what sound is being produced, and this sound is as a result of what vibration. Vibration of the air molecules around this metal will give rise to the sound. So we say metal are sonorous. That is, they have the ability to produce sound. When you hit them, they have the ability to set the air around them into vibration that gives us what sound. So metal are sonorous, and that's why we say sonorosity is one of the properties of metal. Another property is malleability. Malleability. This simply means that metal can be beaten into sheets. If you have a metal now, you can beat your metal into sheets. You can flatten the metal either by hammering or what using any source. So malleability simply means that what metals can be beaten into sheets. Please take note of all these things because they are very important. You might see them in your multiple choice question. So malleability simply means metals can be beaten into sheets. You can beat metals into sheets, and that is why it is possible for you to see metals used as what your roofing sheets. You see your roofing sheet, you see how flat it is. This is because of what the ability of metal to be beaten into sheets. That is why you can get your roofing sheet from metals. So metal has the ability to be beaten into sheets, and that ability is referred to as malleability. Now, number 4 here says ductility. Ductility here simply means that what metals can be drawn into wires. Metals can be drawn into wires. If you notice our cables, the cables we use in electrical connections today, they are made of what? Of metals. And if you look at them, the wires also are made of metals. So ductility simply means that metals can be drawn into wire. Metals can be drawn into wire. And it has actually helped us in the production of what? Of cables and electrical wires that we have today. So ductility simply means metals can be drawn into wires. Then metallic luster. Now, if you look at your metals, you notice that this metals has what shining properties. If you place your metal under sunlight, you discover what they shine. We call it luster. The surfaces of this metal are smooth and what they have this shining property. They have the ability to shine. So this is what we refer to as the metallic luster. That is the shining surface of a metal, the metallic luster. So metal has the ability to shine. Their appearance, they have this shining appearance. Then number 6 says ability to conduct electricity. Remember, I said and this ability to conduct electricity is a very, very distinct property of metals as an engineering material. Metal has the ability to conduct electricity. You can use metal to conduct electricity from one source to another. And because of this property, we say that what metals are conductors. We refer to as metal as conductors because they have the ability to conduct electricity. And because metal has this ability to conduct electricity, we say that what we say metals are conductors. So conductors are materials that has the ability to conduct electricity. They allow electric current to pass through them. And metal is a typical example of a conductor. Then number the next one here says fusibility. The next one here is fusibility. And then we have what? We have color. Like we know, metal varies in what? In different colors. The colors of metal varies. Like your aluminum color might be different from what? From the color of iron. The iron color might be different from what? From the color of cobalt. Likewise, the color of cobalt might be different from what? From the color of nickel. So all these are what? All these are the physical properties of a metal. All these are the physical properties of a metal. So all these are physical properties of a metal. Now we're going to be moving to the classification of metal. How can we classify what? Metal. How can we classify metal? Now, metal can be classified in two ways. Metals can be classified in two ways, and these are the ferrous metals and the non-ferrous metals. The ferrous metals and the non-ferrous metals. Now, what are ferrous metals? Ferrous metals are metals that contain iron as their major components. Remember, iron is the most common metal you can find. Iron is the most common metal you can find. So any metal that contains iron as a major component, we refer to as such metal as what? As ferrous metal. Metals that contain iron as a major component are referred to as ferrous metal. And this is because this metal has the ability to attract a magnet. That is, they have this magnetic property. They have magnetic property. Metals that contains iron as a major component has this magnetic property, and so we refer to them as what? Ferrous metal, because they can attract magnets. They contain iron. An example of these metals include the cast iron, the pig iron, and the steel. The cast iron, the pig iron, and the steel. So all these are examples of ferrous metal. I remember I say ferrous metal are metals that contains iron as their major component, and that what are magnetic. They can attract a magnet. Now, the second type of metals are the non-ferrous metals. The non-ferrous metals. Now, non-ferrous metals are the metals that contain other elements apart from iron as their major components. That is, their major component is not iron at all, unlike the ferrous metal whose major component is the iron. But the non-ferrous metals are metals that their major component is not iron. They contain other elements as their major components. They are not containing any trace of iron in their composition. Example include the copper, the zinc, the magnesium, and the nickel. All these are examples of metals that do not contain iron. And because they do not contain iron, we refer to them as what? As non-ferrous metal. We refer to them as non-ferrous metal, and they are not magnetic. So non-ferrous metal do not have this magnetic property, while the ferrous metals have magnetic property because they contain majorly iron as a component, unlike the non-ferrous metal that contains other elements as their major components other than iron. And these include the copper, the zinc, the magnesium, and the nickel, and so on. Now, ferrous metals share the physical characteristics of metals. That is, they are magnetic and can what? And can rust. They are magnetic and can rust. So with this, we've come to the end of today's lesson. But I have an assignment for us. And this assignment is that you should mention two characteristics each of hardwood and softwood. Remember, I said the characteristics of hardwood and softwood actually depends on the type of plants which they come from. So you must mention two characteristics each of hardwood and softwood. Two characteristics each of hardwood and softwood. Now, before we go, we'll do a brief recap. Like I told you, I say we are dealing with the properties of materials, and we are considering the wood and the metals because they're very important in our workshop, in our engineering works. And like we say these common materials in the workshop include the wood, the metals, the ceramics, and the glasses. But for the purpose of this class, we looked at the wood and metals, and then we say that wood is the oldest engineering material, and it can be classified into two, which is the softwood and the hardwood. The softwood and the hardwood. Then we look at the characteristics of the hardwood. We say this hardwood are gotten from plants that has broad leaves. Their seed are enclosed in seed cases. The trees usually shed their leaves in every season and refer to them as deciduous. The trees are found in tropical regions, and examples include what? The mahogany, the afara, the obeche, the opepe, the oak, iroko, and belson. Then we also look at the softwood, where we say softwood are obtained from plants that has thin leaves. Their leaves are sharp and needle-like, and the seeds are not enclosed in cases, unlike the hardwood. The seed of softwood are naked, and the trees are found in temperate region, that is cold region, not tropical region, not hot region. These trees are found in cold region like Europe. An example includes the cypress, the head cedar, the pines, and the spruce. Then we look at the metals, and we say metal are elements. And like I said, elements simply means that what? They are substances that cannot be splitted into simpler forms by any known chemical means. So refer to them as elements. And I say metals are elements. And I give you examples like your iron is an element, your aluminium is an element, your nickel, your cobalt, your magnesium, they are all elements. And we say they distinct from other engineering materials because they have this peculiar ability to conduct electricity. And because of this, we say they are conductors. Now we look at the various physical properties of metals, which we discussed: the density, the sonorosity, malleability, ductility, metallic luster, ability to conduct electricity, fusibility, and color. Then we look at the classification of metals, and we say metals can be classified into two. These are the ferrous metals and the non-ferrous metal. Ferrous metal simply means they contain mainly iron. That is, the major component is iron. And then the non-ferrous metal simply means what? That they contain other elements as their major components other than iron. And then we say the ferrous metal are magnetic. They have this magnetic property. And then I give an assignment, which I say you should mention two characteristics each of hardwood and softwood. So with this, we've come to the end of today's lesson on the properties of material, where we consider the wood and the metals. So please, if you're watching this video on YouTube, ensure you subscribe to our channel to get more of our videos on this subject, and also try to follow our Zoom classes to get more to participate in our lessons, so that you have broad understanding or broad knowledge about the subjects in which we are dealing in. And the assignment is submitted to the WhatsApp group. I still remain Samuel Babatunde. Thank you and goodbye.